Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'm going to be discussing two things. Firstly, some of the things that have come up since I did the previous video on Harry being awarded the Pat Tillman Award. And the second thing, I'm going to talk about the fallout of the Beckhams and the Harkles. So I'm going to go through that a little bit and talk about why I believe that happened. So please don't forget, if you enjoy this video, whether it's at the start, the middle, the end, please hit the like button. Pretty please. If you haven't subscribed already, then please think about doing so because it does help the algorithm. My recent videos are shown is what I'm trying to do here. So please, if you only watch half of this video, can I ask that you fast forward it to the end, because that then shows it as a full view. For some reason, YouTube picks up on things like that. I think they believe that it's a bot. So this is why it can also affect views. So I don't know why, but it does. If you want all of the links to everything that I have, they are always going to be in my description box, everything. So all the platforms that I'm on. So you get extra things, because even though I put videos up on here and I do shorts on here, I do post a lot, mainly on Instagram. So if you are on there, go across there and give me a follow. The links are all in my description box below. If you would like to treat me to a cuppa, that would be amazing. But again, like I always say, it's not necessary. Just look after yourself first and foremost, but those options are there for you. I also have an Amazon wish list for those of you who want to send me something, but they don't want to use the PO box because it's super expensive, and I do absolutely get that. My email address is there. So my PO box is there for the moment. I am contemplating getting rid of the PO box because it does cost so much money. I do get people that write to me. I get people that send me things. But when I look at the postage, for some of you, when you're sending me something, it costs so much money because you're sending it from abroad. But there are various ways that you can write to somebody online, email for one, or an e-card or something along those lines, and I can print those off. So as much as I love getting the letters from you all, and I do appreciate that, it is just such a crazy expense. So I am possibly going to rethink the PO box and maybe not have that going forward in the future. If you haven't seen my other channels, then please think about going across and subscribing to my Coffee and Crime channel. If you want to know the link to that, again, it's in the description box below, but it's also going to be at the end of this video. There is a circle which says Coffee and Crime. Click on that, it takes you straight there. And yeah, so anything else that you need to know will always be in the description box of my videos. So that being said, it is that time, as always, where it is grab your drink of choice. And here we have another video from a lovely subscriber here. And don't forget, if you want to send in your videos, please do, because I love them and I know that most of you really enjoy watching them. You can always fast forward, it's not obligatory. But yeah, so here is the next one, and thank you for all the love and support that you're giving to these brave people who are sending their videos in, and I'll see you in a minute.
Hey y'all, all the way from Texas. Grab your drink of choice. I'm having ice water because, as you know, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
So glasses are on because I've got to do some reading in a minute. But so before I get into the main part of the video of the Beckhams versus the Harkles, for crying out loud. So before I get into the main part of the video, which is the Beckhams and the Harkles, I'm just going to briefly talk about the Pat Tillman Award. So the petition is now over 40,000. So that just shows you, in the space of a few days, the outrage that has come from this award being given to Prince Harry. And I can understand. Now, it seems as well that Pat Tillman's mother has spoken out and has spoken out against this award going to Harry. And the fact that she has been so vocal about it, I think, is very telling. And I think that that really does speak volumes, and it speaks for so many Because even though that's 40,000 that have signed this petition, you've got to think of the people that are not aware of this petition, or the people that maybe don't have access to doing, or maybe don't even want to sign a petition, but they are still outraged on it. So, you know, you're looking at a lot of people that are angry that Harry is getting this award. What I find really sad is that ESPN, and I have to say this because I think I said it wrong in the previous video, because I have Etsy in my mind, so I think I probably said it wrong, but it's ESPN have actually come out and gone back at Pat Tillmans' mum, which I find shocking. The fact that they felt the need to defend themselves, again, speaks volumes. Why, you know, you'd be better off saying nothing. But I think it is really poor taste. The fact that, you know, she's entitled to come out and say, this is not okay, because her son's name is connected to this. Her son stands for something. And when you put Pat Tillman against Prince Harry, well, there is no comparison. You've got one that left an amazing career as a football player and went and served his country, then was unalived serving his country, and I believe it was through friendly fire, not actually from the other side, which is another story within itself. And then you have Harry, who didn't really serve, even though we are being led to believe that he did. He was, like I said, known as Bunker Harry, Weekender Harry, running off when the drug tests were there, Harry, and was never in any danger, was protected all the time, has literally trashed Queen and country, King and country, and walked away from service for fame. But you could argue the fact that it's gone, but anyway, but that's what he did. That's the role model. But of course, ESPN have come out and said, no, it's not really about Harry, it's about Invictus. Okay. But since Harry has now started doing this with Meghan, it has become the Harry and Meghan show. Like I've said, where have we seen really much about the veterans? And again, they don't do their due diligence, because it was not Harry that started this. Like I said in my previous video, and if you haven't watched that, go across and watch this. Because in all fairness, Harry isn't the brightest spark in the box, is he? So the odds are he might have sort of gone, oh, that's cool. But I don't think that he would have necessarily come up with the idea, because he's lazy. There's no mention of Sir Keith Mills in this award, because at the end of the day, they were both doing this together. No mention of Edward. No mention of the fact that his brother, I believe his grandfather, and probably his father was involved in this as well, and Catherine, because it was part of the Royal Foundation. No mention of them giving a donation, which actually was enabled this to be set up. The Ministry of Defence were also involved in this. They even spoke to the PM at the time, Boris Johnson, to get his backing with this as well. None of that. It's all Harry. It was all Harry's idea. So they do not do their due diligence, which says to me that I don't actually think they care, really, because if they did, then they would see that he is not the best option for this award. But like I said, why have they not gone to the Warrior Games, which is American, and where this started, which has been going since 2010? Why has that not been showcased as, if they think Invictus is great, well then surely Warrior Games would be just as great, because that was where it started. And it's in the same country with the American veterans. This is what I think ESPN are not quite grasping, which says to me then that there is something else untoward going on, because this is not about the veterans. This is not about really that Harry is the best for this, because he's not. That Invictus is the best for this, because they're not. Especially not now, not with Harry connected to it. I think Harry now is damaging the brand rather than it actually being a benefit. So anyway, so they've come back and literally gone against Pat Tillmans' mother, which I find so low, rather than allow her to have her say and be like, well, you know what, we're not just going to say anything because that's poor taste. She's entitled to her say. It is to do with her son, but we're still going to go with whatever it is. But no, they felt the need to publicly come back at her, which I think is pretty disgusting. You basically should have said nothing. Let her have her say. It's to do with her own son. She's allowed to have her say. So where this is going to go, I don't know. Do I think this is going to change anything? Probably not. And it's a shame, because you sort of think that these petitions should be heard. When there's thousands and thousands, or maybe even hitting 1 million at some point, people that are so angry, that has to count for something. But because this, does it become political? I generally don't know, but I just find this very bizarre. And people have mentioned, which I've also thought about, is this connected to his visa? And it's very possible, because I do not believe that they've looked at this genuinely and thought Harry's a good fit for this. So something is going on, and that's a real shame, because what you're having now is all these awards that Harry and Meghan are able to put money to, or find some way of politically manoeuvring the chess pieces to get things. It takes away the validity of what awards are about. If you're going to manufacture an award to make it look like Harry and Meghan are important, that's one thing, and it's laughable. But then giving them an award that means something to the American people, which is going to create such outrage, this is where you're going wrong, because you're not listening to the people. It's like the people don't matter. You're playing a very dangerous game when you're messing around with people that feel very strongly about the veteran community. But anyway, so let me know your thoughts on that one. Now, this is something that has been circulating because Tom Bower has now written it's either written or he's writing a book in regards to the Beckhams, and what's in there is the fallout with Harry and Meghan. So in part one, I'm going to be talking about the lead up to the relationship with David, Victoria and Harry and Meghan. I'm going to look at why Meghan was wanting that relationship with Victoria, where it all started to kind of come from, and then ending into when she got with Harry and why it changed. So part two is going to be where I feel the downslide starting to happen and why. So one of the biggest things that come out was that the Harkles accused the Beckhams of leaking stories about them. Now, if we look at that, we can say, and this is what I believe happened, is Meghan needed to separate Harry from the Beckhams. So she decided to say to Harry, I think Victoria has been leaking stories about me. A bit like, I think your family have been leaking stories about me. Same concept. And that's what Meghan's been doing. And this is classic narcissism. She was threatened by Victoria. She didn't like the fact that Victoria said no to her. And so she decided to start devaluing the relationship between Harry and David Beckham. So this seemed to start around 2013. When you have Meghan, who was in Suits but not really anybody, and so she starts kind of, which is what her TIG blog was, right? And I'm going to be honest, her TIG blog was not her caring about people or wanting to show empowered women, etc. She used her TIG blog to get her into the industry. She knew what she wanted, and there are plenty of people that have done it, but at least be honest about it. So she used her TIG blog to get her the freebies, to get her the endorsements, to put her name, start to put her name out there of like, oh, I'm this, you know, everyday girl that's just going to go out there and just take on the world, and I'm going to empower women, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's where she started to think to herself, I want to start grooming the UK. You know, there is something about the UK, because bearing in mind that she did an interview with Lizzie Cundy, and if I can find it, I'm going to put it up here now.
Meghan, the hottest girl in the US, the #1 show in the United States of America. show about lawyers. I am the love interest and the paralegal of the show, Rachel, and we're beginning season 4 in March, so I'm just very excited. But it's the #1 show across the state. I mean, that's big news. We are very lucky, and fans have been so supportive, and the fact that it's doing so well here in the UK as well is just tremendous. I've had the best time in London. Fans are amazing. And how are you enjoying London life? I mean, it must be mad because, you know, it's very different here, and it's cold. It is very cold. But the people are so warm. As cheesy as that sounds, I was joking today, I've never been called love or darling more in my life, so it makes me want to stick around for a while.
Where she states that she's been over here and she loves it here. We are so welcoming, so friendly, but yet fast forward to when they're leaving after she grabs Harry, we're racist and we're horrible to her and mean and nasty. But back then, and you know, at the end of the day, she still looks like Meghan. It's not like we've suddenly gone, take the blinkers off and oh my gosh, we didn't realise that she was black and wow, now we don't like you. That's crazy, because that just wouldn't have happened. So the truth is, we are a very welcoming country. Are there elements of racism? Of course there are, everywhere in the world. Should there be? No, but there is. But generally speaking, you've only got to look at their wedding to see how welcoming we were of her and Harry's relationship. So 2013, she starts kind of fangirling over Victoria. So I think that she wants to maneuver. So there's very much a jealousy with Meghan when you find a successful woman. And interesting, isn't it, that she's very jealous of white women? Have you noticed that all the women that she seems to be jealous of, it's white women? Princess Diana, Princess Catherine, Angelina Jolie, Victoria Beckham. And I'm sure there are others, but I can't come to mind. What she then does, she wears one of her dresses to a gala event in New York and she gets photographed. So this is what she starts to do. She starts to do things and she tries to love bomb. Whatever her target is her phase of love bomb. We've seen this throughout Meghan's life, is when she wants something, she will love bomb to get it. So Lizzie goes on to say that she was incredibly starstruck by Victoria Beckham. So this is, like I say, this is where this is starting to build. Now, of course, at this point, Victoria's already got connections to the royal family, got connections to Prince Harry, because she was part of one of the biggest girl groups of the 90s, which was the Spice Girls. And if you've never heard of them, I'd be shocked if you've never heard of them. And so, of course, they were very much part of that circle. You know, they met Prince Charles at the time, and they met Prince William and Prince Harry, and he obviously would have been younger then. And I think David also then started to form this sort of friendship with him as he sort of grew up, and they were doing a lot of charitable events together. They even went to Prince William and Princess Catherine's wedding when it happened. So that was in 2011. And so, of course, Meghan would have been keeping an eye on all of this. Now, bearing in mind that she didn't want to be like Princess Catherine, she wanted to be like She-Ra. Look how that turned out. So as it was stated, that as this sort of friendship was growing, so when Harry met Meghan, they really tried to bring her into the fold. You know, they were friends with Harry, so they wanted to make sure that this woman that Harry was dating at the time, they wanted to create her to feel welcome, and they offered, you know, brought her in with some kindness. So you can imagine for Meghan, that this is a woman that she's been idolizing, that she's probably, like I say, very jealous and wants the kind of level of fame and fortune that Victoria Beckham has got. Here she is now dating Prince Harry and mixing in these circles. So you can imagine her ego would have completely taken over. You've got then the fact that Victoria was offering her advice, makeup advice, etc. So trying to sort of build this sort of friendship with her. And the problem you have with somebody like Meghan, a narcissist, once they've obtained the thing that they are desiring, they change the goalpost. So it would be, for her, it would be like having this introduction to Victoria, becoming Victoria's friend. Okay, now I'm her friend, what's next? And that is how it's always going to be with a narcissist. They are never going to settle and just coast. It's once they've obtained, what next, what next, what next? And that is how they work. So as soon as she got in this inner circle, especially like we've said with Prince Harry, it's like, right now I've got a date with Harry. What's next? I've got to secure the relationship with Harry. I've got to turn this into a relationship. Once I got the relationship, what next? Okay, now I want to get engaged. Now I want this, or now I want this relationship to go public. I'll orchestrate it to go public. Okay, now it's public. What next? Okay, now I need an engagement. Okay, once I'm engaged, what next? We need the wedding. We need the wedding to hurry up. So that is how they work. And she would have been doing exactly the same thing all throughout her life when she started this. So as she gets this relationship developing with Victoria, and everything is fine as long as, in Meghan's mind, Victoria knows her place. Because that's how a narcissist works. Know your place. And if you start to, say, become difficult within that place, if she starts to do things that she doesn't like, that's her not knowing her place. And so Meghan then goes, okay, we're not liking that. And this is what would have happened. And I think that this is when Meghan started believing that she was going to get these freebies. So I think that that is what happened. She wanted these free clothes, and when Victoria said, no, that I don't do that, I don't give out freebies, this really annoyed Meghan. So this is something that she would have been like, hang on a minute, I'm now marrying a prince of the UK and you're not willing to give me free clothes. I'm going to be wearing your designer clothes. I'm going to be showcasing your stuff and you're not willing to let me do that for free. That's a problem. You said no to me. That now becomes a problem. The other thing that was interesting as well is that there is a link to Marcus Anderson and David Beckham. Meghan began bonding with someone called Izzy May, who was David Beckham's communications director. And this person was friends with Marcus Anderson. Now, I don't know exactly the timeline here of when Meghan then kind of got with Prince Harry, because she was friends with Marcus Anderson around that time as well. So we're being led to believe. We already know that there is the connection with Scobie and Marcus Anderson. And there now seems to be this connection as well. So was this then orchestrated? Because if Marcus is friends with this Izzy May, who is connected to the Beckhams, was he then more instrumental in orchestrating all of this? Makes you think, doesn't it? Especially given that Marcus Anderson is chief membership officer for the Soho Club. So it does make you think, when this sort of timeline was happening, was it that she befriended Marcus through the Mulroneys, and then through Marcus, who was friends with Izzy May, then sort of connected with the Beckhams and Harry around that sort of time and orchestrated this meetup with Harry, who was then obviously, like I say, friends with the Beckhams at the same time. So there does seem to be something very much deep-rooted in that connection, I feel. You know, there were things coming out that the Beckhams had Meghan over, they hosted her in their home, that Victoria had members of her staff help her with makeup and hair and things like that to kind of really help her as she was new over, you know, as she was over here in the UK. You know, the couple staff attended to Meghan's every need at no cost to Meghan. So they literally went above and beyond. So then it's around this time that Meghan and Harry then got engaged. So this connection was starting to happen. Meghan and Harry had got engaged. It was rumoured that Victoria and Meghan were getting quite close. They were texting each other quite frequently. And I think that this is what was happening, was that Meghan was then securing Harry. So what you'll find, like I say, is when they've got that, then whatever their need is, if they've secured it and then other people have been instrumental in that, they will then, like I say, the devaluing will start to go, where they will distance themselves from that person because they don't need them anymore. So at the moment, they've got this friendship, and so I can imagine that Victoria's probably thinking that Meghan's quite a nice person. You know, at this point, like say Meghan was wearing some of her items of clothing prior to the engagement, and just slightly, and thereafter she was wearing some of her clothes. I mean, there's some pictures here of Meghan wearing some of Victoria's clothes. Now, it seems that things started to get weird when there was an incident when David was invited to Invictus. I think this is in 2018, and he apparently wasn't allowed to sit with Prince Harry. And by the looks of it, Meghan was instrumental in some of this. So this is when I think that this seems to be after the engagement. So now Meghan has secured her engagement with Harry. So this is what, like I say, this is when the devaluing starts to happen. I've decided to do this in 2 parts. I was going to do a longer video, but what I've realised is I've got to help myself here with the algorithm. And for some reason, as much as I know some of you like the longer videos, I've looked at my analytics, and people are not watching the longer videos. I think what they're doing is they're watching a bit and then they're clicking off, and then they're going back on and watching it again later on. And unfortunately, it's not working, because then YouTube start to flag that and think that there's something wrong with the person watching the video. They class it as a bot review. I don't know why, but they do. So as much as I know some of you love my longer videos, I am doing now this in 2 parts. So the first part you've probably watched, and now the second part is when Meghan decides that Victoria is like enemy number 1. And then the second part is going to be about that and how it kind of transpired from there. So I apologise if most of you enjoy my longer videos. You can watch both of them together, because you can watch part 1 and then go on and watch part 2. So in a way, it's still a longer video. But for my analytics and the views, I have to listen to what most people want, unfortunately, as hard as what that is. I'm not saying that I will never do a long video again. Of course I will. But just for the most part, if I'm doing a longer one, I'm going to try and do it in 2 parts. So part 1 and part 2, and see if that works. So yeah, so please, you know, don't come for me in the comments. I'm just trying to find a way to make this work. You know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with me? Is there something that I've missed out? Because it is difficult to try and, like say, try and weed the truth from the lies. So if there's something I've missed out on, then let me know. Don't forget to head on across to my Coffee and Crime channel, where I will be talking about the recent events with Jay Slater, the young 19-year-old lad that's been missing in Tenerife for the last 2 weeks. So if that is something that interests you, then head across there, because that video will also be going up tomorrow. So yeah, and I will be covering this with various other videos along the way. So yeah, in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one. Like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. So in the meantime, as always, take care, and I love you, I appreciate you, but most of all, I respect you. Take care. Bye-bye.